Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast, your home for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. You're with me, your favorite bro, and my bud, Mr. Schmidt. Schmidt, what's going on?
Not a whole lot, buddy. How are you doing?
Good, man. I can't lie. It's been a great couple days here. My
Yes.
wife took the kids up. First and foremost, happy 4th. We are
Yes.
recording
Happy
this
Fourth.
over the let's call it the extended holiday here. Um,
Happy birthday, America.
Yeah,
Sorry for all the other listeners in different countries, but this is America's birthday.
it is. And for those who don't know, I mean, it was about American independence, but now it's about hot dogs and fireworks, and just living it up. So
I mean, that's all America,
the
right?
American dream in a nutshell, basically,
I mean, we do have an international hot dog eating competition,
which was canceled this year, by the way, due to
but
lightning.
but then it was back on.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was
last year
canceled originally, and then they brought it back.
it doesn't get more America than Joey Chestnut choking a guy out last year and still winning. Some dude rushed the stage,
I
he
remember
throws him in a
that. That was
hammerlock
amazing.
and wins
That was
the
amazing.
competition. Like,
And he
that
won
is
again.
gangster.
He won again this year for
he
his
can't be stopped, man.
16th title.
It was Kobayashi in the beginning, and now
Mhm.
it's just the Chestnut stands alone here. So,
I wonder what it's like to prepare for something like that. Like, what do you have to do?
I've seen some documentaries, and it was a documentary about Kobayashi because he was the first almost like celebrity competitive
Like,
eater.
Yeah.
And he was out there and he showed he was working out and he was doing all this stuff. And then he would go to these restaurants and just pile the food in. Like I remember him going to one of those places with the conveyor belts where like you just keep taking plates and they charge you by the colors of your plates. And I'm watching this guy just demolish stuff. And I was like, wow. And then it panned to like some amateur guys who were trying to like get on the scene. And this guy goes to like a Hooters and he just orders a ton of wings. Then he's like, after this one, bring me another one, another one. And on the ride home, they have to pull over and the guy just boots everywhere.
I mean, but I feel like it's like you have to kind of like gradually do it to maybe like expand your stomach
You
to fit it all.
do. You definitely have to.
I mean, it
condition your
sounds
body
really
for that.
disgusting, but it's I mean, they have to purge all this stuff, right? Like you have to, right?
I wonder.
I mean, the chestnut has to purge
things
after
like this. Things like this
62 hot dogs, right?
always have like a very ugly side that nobody talks about, and I can only wonder what goes on in this type of a situation. But I guess I'd probably rather
it's like
not
man
know.
versus food.
Yeah, like
when
do
he
they
had to
just
quit 'cause he was
chug
gonna
like
die.
do they just chug like colon cleanse and then just the next day it's just fire away, for an entire
Yeah,
24
man.
hours? Because you got to
Yeah,
get rid of that. You can't hold on to that for
I mean, 62 hot dogs.
like. Do you just have a super colon after a while? Like that's a real
Bro,
thing.
I don't know. I'm scared to find out. I really am. Scared to
Like I
find
said,
out.
I think I'd rather not know, but it's intriguing. It's compelling. Somebody should make a documentary if they haven't.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something out there. I mean, you said there was one with Kobayashi. I think I remember it.
That was in like 2001. You know what I mean? I would think I was in
It
high
was
school
forever ago.
watching
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
But I remember he was the big deal on ESPN, the Ocho.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Very nice, very nice. So, but other than that, where I was going with that was the wife took the kids away for the extended weekend. Been alone a couple days, like mentally just rested, decompressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working, but it's been nice to only worry about work for a little bit.
Yeah, no, totally. I get it. Totally get it.
So that's been cool. I have a little NWA showed up today, which is also nice.
Yes.
How about you though? What else?
Good weekend, good fourth. I mean, it was kind of an odd fourth this year because it was like not attached to the weekend per se. There was a little bit of a
I always
break in
wonder what the
between.
ruling is on that. Like, is there a Price is Right? Like, it has to be the weekend closest without going over. Is that the way this works? Or are we just going to set fireworks off both weekends?
I don't know. Don't know.
I need an official ruling here.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
Because my hood has been shooting off fireworks since Friday. So that's another reason we couldn't record, because I don't think we'd be able to hear. It would just be nothing but in the background.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But no, it was good, man. Great fourth. to get out to the splash pads, some more pool time. I got burned more than I need to. Cooked some burgers and steaks yesterday during the
Yeah.
fourth. Drank some beer while cooking, as you should. You can't man the pit, especially in a charcoal pit without a frosty
Not
beverage.
That's mandatory.
It's mandatory. But yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and now recording. So it's been a fantastic week. Fantastic week.
Very cool. I guess before we hop into anything here, and it's funny. I had such a nifty idea for an episode.
Don't say it though.
I
Don't
won't. I'll
say it.
save it for I guess next year. But
We'll have to
it
do
was
it. We'll have to do it for next
it
year
was a really good
because
idea. But I looked at the list of how many goddamn things came out in this week and a half.
there's
I
so
guess
much.
there's no way we're getting to a topic today. It's impossible.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot. There's way too much.
It's impossible. I'm looking at all this and like I want to say something about every single one of these. So I couldn't really cut any of them out, and I kind of like most of them. So I guess we'll just go with that. Before I get into any of that, I guess I'll talk about my little NWA here.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like when you sent me the photo of this, I literally have never seen it before.
Yeah, it was a total stumble upon,
What
down
is
the
it?
rabbit hole. Well, I was looking at I just happened to come across, I guess on the gram, I came across some obscure Seiko collab and I clicked on it, and then it was like I was like, oh, let me see how much this is. So like it brought me to a website, and the website had like you might also be interested in. And then I was like, what's
Hmm.
this? Right? That's how they hook you. What's
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was like, this is kind of neat and like also like something in the realm of something I kind of wanted. So this is the Seiko X Nano Universe SZQV020. That's the serial number on it, reference number. Sorry.
Hmm.
I haven't decided if it's Railmaster or Steve McQueen, but it's a little
That's a little bit of both for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's a little 35 millimeter guy. To be honest, this is like the Alpinist that I've always wanted, size wise. Like if they made the green one in these dimensions, this would be unstoppable. This is it's a quartz watch. It's 100 meter. It's got polished center links on the bracelet, which is kind of
Yeah,
interesting. Uh,
yeah, I
but
saw that.
but it's kind of built in that alpinist style, like the case and the crystal and everything. It's
But
kind of
that's
fieldy.
totally a Steve McQueen inspired dial for sure.
Yeah, which I love the Steam McQueen. Obviously, I'm never ever gonna get one,
Yeah, we don't.
but
We all have 1655 money. That's
yeah,
for
no,
sure.
no, no, certainly not. But it's got the creamy loom and it's got the orange hour hand. I just thought it was a nifty little watch because I really liked. There was a similar one that came out. I think it was with Tic Tac, and it looked kind of like this, but it was in the bigger case, and it was a little expensive, and I was like, I don't know if I want to spend that much on it. But so I went on, good old watch recon. I found somebody selling it, and not only that, but they removed the listing and said, I'm sending this to the Bay at an even bigger discount. So I found the guy's listing on eBay, and I said, listen, if you sell this thing on eBay, they're going to take 15% off the top right away. I said, how about this? And the guy's like, that's a good point. Sold. And I was like, okay, here we go. And
Um,
here it is. So I got it for a song. He included an Uncle Seiko bracelet, which is also quite
yeah, I
nice.
saw that. It's kind of he did like a present style like 1450 link bracelet, right?
Yeah, so pretty cool. Not much else to say, but I think it's
I,
it's gonna be a great summer beater, kind of on and off with the
yeah,
resin. I
yeah.
think that's a sick little combo.
So let me ask you, what era is this from?
This was released recently.
Really?
Yeah, it's 300-piece limited edition, and it's just an obscure model that I think is kind of limited to just like a Japanese outfitter. I think I don't really research these collabs much, but as
I
long as they're
mean,
not
yeah.
with
What
something,
is Nano
as
Universe?
long as they're not with something extremely embarrassing, I don't really care what they are.
Yeah, so it's a leading online destination for men's contemporary fashion and streetwear, according to Hypebeast.
Okay, I'll take their word for it.
Yeah, okay. So apparently they do a lot of collabs with Seiko.
They have, yeah. I've seen their stuff before. It's never
Okay.
really moved the needle too much for me, but this is in a style of something I've always wanted, and so I figured for the price,
Yeah.
I was like, why not?
Why the heck not?
Why
Yeah,
not?
man. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty slick little guy. The packaging is kind of cool too. I don't know if you get the original box and
I
papers and
did. I
everything.
did. It's quite nifty.
It's a very interesting color and like quote thing and
It's one of those watches. It almost reminds me of the alpinists that I talk about sometimes, like the I can't remember the abbreviation. It's like SVSSS, SASSS or something like that. And like
mhm,
those
mhm.
ones are just like these obscure little like collabs that existed and then never existed again. And I'm like, damn, I wish I just was like around and stumbled upon that. So like I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna get this while it's just cheap as hell, and I won't care about price as it as it if it appreciates at all. So
Yeah. I guess it did some divers too at one point.
I guess, yeah. Again, I've seen them before. I've just never really been
Whoa,
like,
this is in 2015.
yeah.
These divers are sick.
Are you in troubles, man?
Oh man, these divers are pretty slick. It's funny. It's kind of the same colorways as the Rezzies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the resin Segos.
very cool.
And they have like old school, like vintage style Seiko diver hands. I think one of them's like a tuna hand set.
Yeah, I love the tuna Hanson, the original tuna.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got like a line down the center of it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Okay. We're gonna have to do some digging. Maybe we
Yeah,
should do an episode one time where we just like try to troll through the obscure things and
it's like
just
here. Oh, just a rabbit hole
just a rabbit
episode.
hole and just be like, all right, we're doing this and like what can we find? And why not? Y'all let us know in the comments if you'd
Yep.
love to see that.
Watch Recon would explode. I feel like
I mean, we did it with with Mr. Jones, right? So why not do it with
Senor
something different?
Jones. All right. So with that out of the way, I think we can get into the gigantic list of stuff that has recently dropped.
We didn't plan this, by the way, guys.
No,
We
not at
we
all.
did
Again,
technically have a topic for this, but
I had a really funny idea for a topic. Not funny, but just a creative and sneaky idea.
yeah, we didn't expect everyone to just dump everything all at once.
But here we are.
Oh,
Yeah, there's been a few happenings, but other than that, some collabs and stuff. And we'll start it off with a collab from Nevada Grenchen and Analog Shift. They've made a Chronomaster Big Eye with a white dial, and it's got the orange Martini olive hand, and it's got
hmm.
a black sub register, and then it's got another one with a blue and orange. What would you call that? Totalizer
Yeah,
section,
yeah. So it's part of the totalizer with for the minutes, but it's a yachting chronograph.
right? So
So
it's
it's
got
got
all
the
the
big
fun
eye.
colors. Yep.
Yeah, so it's all fun colors, and then you have basically a delineation within 5 minute increments, one in blue and one in yellow, which was synonymous with chronographs used for you got for
Regatta time.
you gotta for
Right?
regatta racing or yacht timing back in the
I
60s.
like Ugata better. They should
I
just go
mean
with
it
that.
kind of just just let's just do some Yugata
Yeah.
watches. Um I love the watch. I hate the fact that it says analog shift on the dial.
I'm with it. I like
I
that.
mean,
I like what you're
every
putting down here.
literally everything else, I love the watch.
Yeah. I
Like
like
if I
it.
could
It
take,
has like a ghosted bezel kind of.
yes, it's so good.
Beads of rice,
Beads of rice
pushers look
bracelet,
good.
long lugs. I mean, just
And
like
if this is spec like the normal Chronomaster Aviator Sea Diver, like that's a beast. Like it's like
it's
a
a
diving
sick,
chrono.
it's a sick watch. And here's the thing, if you think back to history, there was a lot of regatta chronos back in the 60s. Like they were everywhere. I mean, you think about like the Hoyer
Skipper,
Skipper,
yeah.
like that is an unobtainable watch today.
Yep.
You had some, they weren't really regatta watches back then, but you had like the Abercrombie watches.
A lot of
They
tag, a
had
lot of Omega.
exactly, they had a lot of those similar design aesthetics. And this is like a very common complication for something that was not very common thing for a lot of people to do. It was very niche watch for sure. but you can't find these pieces anymore. And they're usually beat to hell because they were used sailing and they were used actively. And, they were just really, really nice. Like, so this is kind of a cool watch that is accessible price point wise. I mean, it's a Nevada. It's a great collab in a great colorway that feels original, but still kind of an homage in some aspects. But I hate that it freaking says analog shift
It would have been cool if they just
on the
did the
dial.
little A/S like instead,
Or
like their
just put
little.
it on the freaking case back.
Oh, true. Yeah, we always
We
neglect
get
that, right?
it. It's like, I mean, I get it. You're branding, you want to have it everywhere, but sometimes it's less is more,
Yeah, people all about the double stamp.
I am too if the double stamp means something. Okay. You're just telling me that this is a company that's now part of the Watches of Switzerland group and you're stamping your logo on it. Like that's the part that gets me because it's so like corporate. You know what I mean? Like Analog Shift used to be an independent company, and they used to be a big source for vintage collectors. I mean, they still are today, but they're owned by Watches of Switzerland now. They're part of the WAS group,
Yep.
so it's like a very corporate move to be like, here's our logo, buy our stuff. You know, might as well be Nike check or like an Adidas three stripes. It's like it just feels very like gimmicky to me. But I love the watch.
Yeah, no, it's very slick.
Maybe we should
Very
just have
slick.
the dial artist just kind of like paint it out.
I'm sure what's his face would do it. What's our guy? The guy who loves to tinker with watches. I can't remember his name right now. He does the funny second hands. Sakan
Oh,
Sakan.
Sagan, Sagan. Yeah, yeah. Sagan,
I feel like he
Sagan.
could do
He could
it.
just be like, yeah, we're just going to put a little bush right here. That'll be our little bush. It'll be a happy bush.
Dude, Bob Ross would have made a sick dial artist. He would
Ahead
have
of
been a
his
sick
time.
collab in general, but Bob Ross.
Yes. If anybody's out there, Mr. Jones, maybe if you're listening, do a Bob Ross watch.
I feel like
I think you're
Timex. I feel like Timex would do Bob
Timex could
Ross.
also do it. Timex could also do it. But do a Bob Ross watch. Somebody do it. Somebody needs to keep that legacy living on. That guy was a goat for sure. We
He
all tried to
was
figure out how to paint. We couldn't do it,
he was on
but it was cool watching him do it.
Saturday morning cartoons, and he'd be there with his little palette, and he had his easel, but he would
Mm-hmm.
never use a goddamn brush. He's out here with like a little palette knife, and he's making trees by like scraping the. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this guy doing? And every time I'm watching him make these strokes, and I'm like, there's no way this is gonna make up a picture. And then at the end, he's like, here we go, and I'm
Boom.
like, that's insane. Like
Yeah.
he was
One of the
just the
most
man
majestic
with his
landscapes you've
little
ever seen with
afro.
your
Like
eyes.
he was the best.
Yeah.
Happy
Bob
tree,
Ross,
little
man.
happy tree right here.
This is a little happy tree.
I mean, no doubt he was probably high as a kite all the time, but like he was always happy. I was him and Mr. Rogers seemed like the two funnest guys to be around.
And again, that was literally another person I was going to say is like, we need to make a Mr. Rogers watch. Make the strap out of sweater.
That would
When
actually be hysterical.
Oh my gosh. All right. Anybody who's
That's
listening out there who's a watch designer, you're welcome.
this is
Go
top
forth to do
tier.
God's work. Go forth to do God's
This
work.
is R&D you cannot pay for.
R&D you cannot pay for. That is 100% correct.
That's right, unless you're a Dragon Ball Z yet. Anyways, on to Grand Seiko made a very, very, very limited watch. Right, I think we saw that this was what 60 pieces.
According to Reddit, it's 60
Oh, so
pieces.
that's
I mean,
unreliable. It might be 600. You never know with them. But
yeah, I don't really know, nor do I care. I mean, it's a beautiful watch.
it's kind of your standard spring drive looking Grand Seiko, but the texture on the green dial is honestly pretty insane. It looks really good. It's a dark but sort of pale green, almost a gray.
Yeah.
It's the SBGA 495 in case anybody needs to check it out. It's got a little green power reserve hand. It's everything I like about Grand Seiko and the Grand Seiko package, and that I've beat to death on this show, and I don't think I have to do it anymore. But just buying these watches and just getting these dials are it's such a treat. Like when you get one in person, and I know a lot of people won't because they don't either like the idea of having a fancy Seiko or like it's just not their thing. But when you get to see them in person, you're like, damn, this is actually really neat. Like
Yeah.
just what went into this. And even if it's not really for you, I feel like you'd still be like, all right, like I could see somebody put a lot of work into this thing where as maybe some of these, you know, bigger brands that are like strictly 100% like factory assembled, you'd be like, oh, okay, I could kind of see the difference a little bit here. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. You got to call balls and strikes, and this is certainly a very beautiful dial. It's very similar to me in terms of the appearance, like that light pink one that came out earlier. Do you remember that one
yeah,
with
it's got
like the
like a
red?
snowy dial. It's not quite a snowflake dial, but it's like it almost reminds you of like a snow flurry in color.
But you know what it reminds
That
me of,
that
really?
Kirazuri type of look.
It reminds me of like linen, like a cross hatching
Oh yeah,
texture,
very much so.
like a linen shirt
Yeah, I agree.
or like like a finer like rattan chair, like those woven wood chairs where they take the sticks and they kind of weave them together. It almost looks like a close up shot of that,
Yes.
you know. But it's a very beautiful looking dial.
Yeah, but that's
But
what I think
it's
works is that you have
yeah,
that kind of complex texturing, and then on top of that, you have
very simple.
simple and very highly Zaratsu polished
Yeah, yeah,
hands and dial furniture, and that's where you get a lot of contrast. Yeah, so I think that's sort of their bread and butter. But it's just
for
something that
sure.
it's something that speaks to me personally, and that I have always sort of appreciated about all their watches in general. And well, I'm glad I just got one and I got it out of the way, and I don't have to buy another one because they are just going up. I don't want to know how much this is because they just keep approaching like 8, 9, 10,000, and I don't want to ever pay that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm glad I got that out of the way.
I agree. I agree.
How about something a little more accessible here? Oris now has cotton candies in steel and on bracelet.
Yes.
And I think
Yes, yes,
everybody's
yes, yes.
excited about this. I think everybody liked the bronze, but bronze is not for everyone, right? It's a very specific look. Some people aren't about the patina. Some
Yeah.
people they maybe it doesn't match sort of their skin tone. They were kind of out on that. You saw the pink one that I raffled off for real men. So they have that. They have a blue and they have a green, sort of a
Hmm,
soft
hmm.
green, and they all look really good. I like them all in bronze, but I thought the pink kind of won in the bronze, but I'm really feeling the green in steel.
I would agree with you, especially because it's like a mint color.
It's nice.
It's a nice minty green. If you guys
Metallic
remember
mint
a
green
few
viewing
years ago, mint
skyline.
was like really in. It looks good, man. All the photos that I can see from people that have gone hands on with these, they look really, really pretty. I mean, again, we loved them in the bronze, and you had more of that kind of like patina element with the dials in the bronze version. These are stark white, super luminova.
Yes.
I really do like the pink because it does remind me a lot of like my kiddos, you know, daughter's favorite color is pink. Maybe that'll be the case when she's older. Maybe it won't be. But it's just to me, it seems like a very cool watch.
Yeah, and you can get them on a Perlon too if that's your jam.
Yeah. Throwing it back to the Perlon. What is this, 2015?
Yeah. But it kind of dresses it down, kind of informal and fun and colorful. So that's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, we've been waiting for Oris to kind of make their moves, and this is, even though it
Yeah,
might not be
that's
something
right.
extremely new and off the reservation, it's something. I mean, I think this watch will speak to enough people that they will find buyers for it. I'm personally a diver 65 guy over an Aquas kind of guy, and that's just personal preference, not necessarily due to specs or anything specific other than design. But
Yeah.
I'm a diver 65 guy, so I'm intrigued by this, and I think it's a nice release, and I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think it's a very pretty watch. Especially all the colorways I think are very well executed. Like I said, the mint green's probably my personal favorite, but I would be happy with any of the three colors. The pink one certainly is a very cool watch. Um, so there you go. I like it.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
All right, up next we have our one of our companies we talk about quite often on here. Ferrer now has a collab with Worn and Wound, and see this is kind of a
This is a mail it in for me, dude.
it's a weird release for me because when I think Ferrer, I think bold colors. I think really jumping off the dial type of deal. And even though you get that sky blue, baby blue hand with an what looks like an orange tip Um, the sort of plain dial on a dark case, it just seems very non-fairer to me. It's I don't know if
Yeah.
that's more, I don't know if that's Warner Wound putting their own stamp on it type of
I,
thing.
I would have to say that that's probably what it is. And honestly, this particular dial looks very similar to something they did in the past, like on a different color execution. And it just seems like they just kind of changed a few color elements, like the tip of the second hand color itself. And that was just kind of like it's our limited edition. To me, this is like a very mail it in watch because there's nothing particularly attractive to me about this piece. It's a fairer. I love it. I like the design overall of the collection, but I feel like what you said here, the colorway is not to me representative of fair. And I think that's what I'm missing here.
And I guess if I don't know if they had their own specific color scheme and this was it, I think I would understand. If like Warren and Wine for all their collabs, like how when they did that Seiko pilot, it was
Mm-hmm,
kind of
mm-hmm.
like a weird tuxedo dial type of deal with like an outer dark ring and a lighter inside ring, and then it was like little hints of color here and there. If that was their thing, and then they just took that and moved it over onto this watch for this collab, and that was like just their thing going forward, I would understand. But
Yeah,
I think it kind of castrated the fairer part of it a little bit.
yeah.
I like the indices how they're kind of outlined and pronounced. Again, it's not an ugly watch. It's not an ugly watch at all. It just it doesn't, I guess it doesn't speak to me in the way that their watches normally do, and I guess it's just because it's not, I guess it's not theirs completely,
But see, that's
so
the thing that's the thing that's so surprising to me. Because you look at some of the other like super impressive collabs, and my favorite ones that comes to mind was the Zodiac Super Seawolf Worn and Wound collab.
oh, the Aquamarine Dream, huh? Oh no, that's a
Not the
block to watch.
that was a
Sorry,
block
that
to
was a block to
watch.
watch. Different
This
collab,
is
but also good.
this is the one that looked like the '90s laser tag. You
Oh
remember
yep.
with like the
Oh, the
crazy
Trapper Keeper.
confetti, but
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like that that was a cool representation of both design essences, right? Like Zodiac is a brand that's not afraid of color. Worn and Wound, a lot of the guys that are in charge of Worn and Wound grew up in the '90s. So this was kind of a physical manifestation of those different design languages kind of merging together into a singular piece. And I thought it was executed so well. And maybe that'll be one of those pieces where I try to hunt one down at some point because it was just so cool. Um, but it, this is not that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very much the opposite in design language. It just feels very Spartan, and it almost to me feels like an afterthought. And I hate to say that because it's a fairer and it's a great watch, but I just felt like it could have been so much more, and there was so much more potential for this to be really like a visceral reaction piece for me
Hmm.
rather than just something I scrolled. I mean, you had to remind me that it even came out
Yes.
because I literally just scrolled right past it, thinking it was something else that Farrah had done before in the past. There was nothing that was super attention grabbing for me to be like, okay, this is new. I like it. Let's think about adding it to my collection.
And I always hope, I think by now, or at least our listenership, but I think newer listeners might not understand. Like, this is not really like us like talking shit. This is literally just having a conversation of ideas about, sort of a, whether it be a snap judgment or the initial reaction or the way, what feelings are evoked when you sort of sit down and dissect something. It's not necessarily like, oh well, let's bag on Warren and Wound or whatever. It's not
Yeah.
really anything like that. It's
No, and again, I hope people don't take it that way, but to me, it's just there could be more. I understand that sometimes simplicity is king here, but for me, given what I know from both brands in the past, this is the opposite of what they were looking for. And maybe that's the direction that they were going with this. Maybe they're like, "Hey, we've done some crazy stuff before. Let's tone it down and that will be more surprising." I don't know. But it just seems a little off brand for both.
yeah, agreed. Agree. uh, so continue with our eventful week here.
Wow.
We got not one but two FXD editions,
Yeah,
and this is in collaboration with Alingi Red Bull Racing.
which is a very long name.
Yeah, and it's something I don't know if I necessarily want on my rehaul, but we got two watches. One is a chronograph. They're both FXDs. They're both technically Pelagos models. Um, they don't look bad. Black bezels, dark blue dials, red
Yeah.
accents. In the renders and in the professional photos, I think the color combinations work. When
Hmm.
I see
Hmm.
them in person, sometimes the red disappears a little bit because it's a very purple blue, and obviously
Yeah.
we know red is in purple, and so sometimes the red fades back. And I don't know if maybe it's just a picture thing. Maybe in person it's not so much like that. I mean, it's a bold red,
Yeah.
but like even trying to read Pelagos on it is difficult, and I'm staring right at it and I'm zoomed in.
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
just
could
feel
see
like
that. I could
I
see
feel
that.
like the dial kind of eats the red. I mean, I understand it's part of their colors, so
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
have to do that. But just an interesting little tidbit for me. The one thing that has sort of bothered me about it is when I've seen people wearing it, the strap is as you mentioned before the show, it's made for people who are wearing a little more apparel, and so it's a little long. But for the
Yeah.
average wearer, it's very long, and the strap for most people, I don't know if they have small wrists or normal size wrists, but the strap is overlapping the lugs, and that just it bothers me just a hair, just a bit.
Well, yeah, especially if you have anything under basically, I would say probably a 7.25 inch wrist, you're gonna have a little bit extra strap hang, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I can't say that with 100% certainty, but to me, that would seem pretty logical, just given the way that this strap is designed. And this is one of the reasons why I never, ever liked straps that were designed that folded towards you, because it's always something that you catch on things.
Oh, true. Yep.
It just it's always something to catch on something. And that's why for me, it always made sense that straps went the other direction, because you were less likely to catch it towards you and more likely to catch it away from you, if at all. um but other than that, I don't hate the watches.
No, they're not bad at all. I mean, they're
No,
nice.
no, yeah, for
The
sure,
models are
for sure.
cool. It's just little things that I've noticed sort of looking at them and taking them in over the past few days.
Yeah. um I like them. I don't know if I like it more than the standard FXD. But I think I like the color palette a little bit better. I think it's sporty. I think it's cool.
Something
Like
different.
you, I'm not a big fan of the Alingi Red Bull Racing, like literally around the chapter ring for the entire watch. Which is, mm, it's a little leave it for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially because like up until recently, Lingy, as you guys know, was affiliated with Omega. That was part of the Omega regatta racing kind of spectrum. And at the beginning of this year, or maybe towards the end of last year, the partnership between both entities kind of dissolved. And there was really no reason why. I'm assuming this was the reason why. But back then, Alinghi was not part of Red Bull Racing. This, from what I understand, is the first time that Red Bull will be entering into regatta racing as it pertains to the other entities of racing that they do. Motorsport, propeller planes, things like that. So this is just another avenue of what they do. So they have to make sure that everything is put together.
Yeah, and I mean, you know a little bit more about regatta racing than I. We were talking a little bit before the show, and you're like, "Have you ever watched a regatta?" And I was like, "No, that seems like paint drying to me, to be honest." But you seem to have a more interesting take on sailboat racing than I.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I had I had somebody that was a colleague of mine that was talking to me about it, and I was like, "Hey, dude, how do you get into something like this?" And kind of like yourself, I had that mindset that, this is a bunch of, upper crust, people with too much money on their hands, which in some ways it is that. Um, and basically the idea for me was like, this is a bunch of dudes wearing like, Oxford shirts and khakis and
That's what
like
I pictured.
Sperry's and just like sailing around the coast, right? And it's certainly an appropriate idea. Um, but that lineage is really kind of since passed, especially now because modern day regatta, specifically like the America's Cup, which is what I believe the Alinghi Red Bull Racing Challenge is going to be for. It's going to be for the next America's Cup Challenge, which I think is next year in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Essentially, what makes this unique and special is the idea that all of these boats are capable of traveling incredible speeds now. So the idea of this like this leisurely cruise around the bay or around this particular body of water, that doesn't happen. These boats are now foiling, sailboats. They're capable of achieving extreme knots on the water. And in most cases, when you see sailors today, they're wearing full helmets, goggles, body armor, to some extent because it's a very vigorous and very dangerous sport. Let's call it, you're sailing and you're doing the equivalent, let's say, 45, 50 knots, something like that. It's like 35, 40 miles an hour. You hit the water or you crash into another boat at that velocity, like that's some serious damage. What I find so interesting about the sport overall, though, is it's one of the oldest competitions in the world that competes for a trophy. It gets its name, the America's Cup, specifically from American history. And for those of you who don't follow regatta, basically in 1851, a group of businessmen from New York were invited by a regatta club, a yachting club in England, which is kind of where this sport really originated, to basically sail across the ocean and come compete in what would become the first international regatta competition. And they did it. They sailed their ship called America, which is very aptly named, all the way across the ocean to compete in English waters in the first international regatta championship or regatta competition, and they won. They beat the English in their own home waters in front of the Queen, who was in attendance. And they win this trophy, and they basically named it the America's Cup after the boat that originally claimed its title. Since then, since 1851, this same trophy has been passed down to every America's Cup winner since that year. And what's even more impressive is this was basically a record of dominance for the United States. At some point or another, there was something like, I don't know, 150 years where somebody from America had the America's Cup, something like that. Let me see if I can find the exact days. Uh, but basically, it was 132 years.
Wow.
So the United States had the America's Cup for 132 years until somebody lost it in the 80s to the Australian team, which neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. It's an impressive sport. Check it out. And by the way, if you win the previous America's Cup competition, you get to decide all of the rules for the next competition. And whoever challenges you officially has to legally go into contract with you that they will abide by these rules. They can change the nationality of the sailors, what type of sailing craft that you can sail. They can invent an entirely new boat that you have to therefore build in order to compete in the competition. They can do whatever they want. And as the challenger, you have to agree legally to those terms. And it's very cool. It's like Formula One. If you're into Formula One, you would love regatta. It's literally Formula One on the water. That's the best way to put it. These days of, sailing competitions taking, hours long to sail around these buoys at super slow paces, that is long gone. These races are extremely fast and very, very hard on the body for sure.
Well, there you go, gang. Everything you wanted to know about regatta.
As much as I could fit into my little time slot, bro allowed me to have.
Well, I
But
was
getting
sitting
back
here.
to the watch, it's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. I don't know about the carbon case. I'm always a little bit leery on carbon pieces because this is my big thing, and this may be the hot take. Carbon is a fantastic material, especially for weight reduction properties. It makes it feel like you're wearing air. My biggest thing is what happens if you scratch it or you dent it?
Well, especially if you're being tossed around on a sailboat that's tipping every which way, right? What happens if you bang? I mean, it does shatter, right?
You can
If you
crack
hit it
it.
hard enough, yeah.
You can crack it for sure. And even if you don't crack it, let's say you dent it, how do you fix it? You
Yeah.
can't refinish it. That's the thing that always blew my mind about some of these RMs and stuff like that. You're talking about $250,000 watch in carbon or whatever. If you scratch it or you break it, like how do you fix that?
At that point, I guess they just give you a new case.
But are they going to give it to you? Or are they
No,
going to
I
charge you
don't want to
for
know how much that's going to
it?
cost.
That's my point, right? That therein lies my point. So that's kind of the thing that I think about when it comes to these cool composite materials is okay, they're awesome from a weight reduction standpoint, but let's be honest, you're not part of the Red Bull Racing Alinghi team. You don't get these watches for free.
Nope.
You're not getting them service for free. So if you damage one of these watches, keep in mind that that is a big consideration. They look cool. They're blacked out. They're really stealthy. They're super lightweight. But with lightweight comes, in some aspects, inherent fragility as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I kind of it's kind of why I have been attracted to sort of the plain Jane nowadays, where it's just like, yeah, is this a steel case? Is it fun, cool, sporty, whatever? Like, yeah, unless I'm buying something that's, resin and $180 and I don't really care what happens to it. Like, if I'm
Exactly.
gonna sink money into it,
But that's my point, right? What's the
I'd
cost of
like
these
it to
carbons?
last.
What's the cost of these carbons? Did you look it up?
No, 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 I didn't.
Let me see if I can pull up the cost real
I,
quick.
it wasn't interesting enough for me to have to
I know, but at
take a
least
peek at the price.
I want to give people the facts. So the carbon FXD time only is $3,675 US.
Not horrible.
Not horrible. Let's see. The chrono is 5,075 US. So again, not horrible, but how much of that is actually the case construction, right? And what does it cost to replace a carbon case? I don't know. But I guarantee you, I don't want to find out either.
Nope, nope, no, I don't.
Yeah, it's a carbon composite case with matte finish. Cool looking watches. Just be careful with them.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. This is an FXD, right? So this has the fixed bars.
Yep.
What happens if you crack one of the bars?
Well, not only that, what I was thinking about was because it's an FXD. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have a bracelet for it, but it annoys me if I'm going to throw it on a different strap and now I'm not going to have the hardware matching the case, and that irks me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That bothers me. Like if I am buying a NATO for a watch that has a black case, I will buy a PVD black
Yeah.
hardware NATO because it irks me that much.
Well, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Like there's a watch that I have that's gold case, and like for me, it's even so much like I won't change the buckle because I know it won't be solid gold to match the solid gold case. So like just doing like a plated buckle, just even for me, like it irks me too because like I know it's not the same, you know, even though appearance wise it technically is.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but no, I agree with you. But that's a consideration, man. Like this is an FXD. If you're concerned about long and hard wearing, get the steel version, like 100%.
Titanium,
If
huh?
I'm sorry, yes, the titanium
Yeah.
version. Yeah, yeah, titanium version.
Sorry.
Sorry, I said
Helios
steel.
expert here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes, thank you for correcting me. I will admonish myself.
No, no, it's
Um,
fine. It's fine.
but yeah, I mean the carbon case, and just think of just be careful because technically, I can imagine that lug part could be a failure point for sure. Especially if you get something wedged in there, it could literally just crack it off. So unless it did some type of reinforcing on the inside, which they could do, but I would imagine that could be a potential failure point for sure.
Yeah, all things to think about when dropping 4, 5, 6,000 on a watch. All right, bud. The moment we've all been waiting for, specifically you. We got we got
I feel like I've
11.
talked about so much, like just in passing with people, that I'm almost like, yeah, I guess we'll talk about
We've got
it.
11 new blue anniversary Omegas this week.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got everything from Aquaterras to World Timers to 300s to 300 meters, Ploprofs, Ultra Deeps, and even a Planet Ocean that I asked for last week.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
they all
let's be
come in this. So the anniversary colorway is many of them have a sort of a gradient, sort of a I don't know what would you call it. It's a very pale blue out to a very dark blue, almost black at the
yeah.
edges. It almost looks like if you're underwater looking up at a light source, and it's got that sort of effect. That's kind of what it reminds me of looking at these dials. And
And I think that was intentionally exactly what it's supposed to
yeah,
represent.
and the Ultra Deep has some serious texturing on it. It's very, very Grand Seiko of them.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll talk about that one because there's some people who've been like, oh, they copied Grand Seiko. I'm like, okay, yes
All right,
and
they
no.
didn't invent texture. They just
No,
do it
no, no.
well.
It's not so much that, but it's also not what people think, especially if you haven't
No,
done
I'm
any
saying Grand
research on
Seiko
it.
did not invent texture on dials. They just
Oh,
happen to
for
do it.
sure,
They
for
just happen
sure,
to do it well. I
they do, one hundred
that's just
percent.
people being people.
So, as you said, 11 total SKUs, from what I remember. Some of them though are the same watch head.
Yes,
The only difference is it comes on either on like rubber or bracelet, so you
correct,
have the
correct.
options there. Omega's counting those as two different watches, even though it's technically the same watch case, just mounted on either option. So there's only really a few of those, but like you said, you have 38 millimeter Aquaterra, 41 millimeter Aquaterra, 43 millimeter World Timer. Um, we have the 300 Heritage in 41 millimeters, the 300-meter
Looks
Diver in
good.
42 millimeters, the Planet Ocean in 39.5
Let's
millimeters
go.
only. Ploprof at 55 millimeters, which I'll touch on because you guys know I love the Ploprof, which is probably my favorite release of the entire collection. I think a lot of people have echoed that so far. And then lastly, the Ultra Deep at 6,000, and 45.5 millimeters. So I'm obviously not going to talk about every single one of them because we would be here for probably another hour. But
Yep.
let me ask you, what is your kind of favorite from everything? And I'll kind of echo something around that.
So I think the 300 Heritage looks great.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think I'm excited about the Planet Ocean because it's something sort of different than what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said in the last episode, we were used to a lot of blacks, a lot of orange, silver, white, but not too much in the. This is a very kind of fun and playful, almost like the North Carolina dark blue, light blue type of look. I
Yeah, yeah,
like it
yeah,
a
for
lot.
sure.
This is probably my favorite Ploprof that's ever been released because I know
Yeah.
I've said that I found them a little bit large and obtrusive at times, but this being a little subdued and kind of neat and fun and playful, I dig it. It's a little more stealthy than your run of the mill Ploprof, but I think this colorway really sort of brings it home. It's probably my favorite iteration of that watch. The
Mm-hmm.
300 meter looks good. It's always looked good in blue. I don't think that's ever going to change. I've never been a huge ultra deep person. It's just I don't know. I watches like that and the Sea Dweller are just really not my cup of tea per se.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the Aquaterras are nice, but I think the diver pieces really did it for me, to be honest.
yeah. Oh, I would agree, man. I think of all these non-super super technical divers, the 300 is probably my absolute favorite.
It looks very
Um,
classy in this color combination.
I think it looks really good. I honestly believe it's even better than the other versions that we've seen. And I know it's kind of sacrilegious because I know a lot of people have been asking for like a 300 Heritage, with like bright white superluminova, something tells me that this is actually a better take. That so Omega's officially calling this color code summer blue. And basically, as you go deeper in depth rating for the different watches that are out there, the color will gradually change darker, but still incorporate this idea of this like summery blue color. So in the Aquaterra spectrum, it's very lightweight, or it's a very light color in blue. All of the watches have a unique summer blue superluminova color, apparently. So it's actually not white lume, it's a light blue lume
Yeah.
that's always there, which is very cool to see. I think, like you said, though, the 300 is probably my favorite out of the non-professional versions, just because it is so cool
Well, it's
and
versatile,
unlike anything that I've
it's
ever seen.
versatile. It doesn't it's a diver, it's distinctly a diver, but it doesn't always read diver. Like I feel like I could wear
Yes.
that and it won't it'll just read, sporty watch as opposed to, if I'm wearing a certainly a Plo Prof, but a Planet Ocean's a little more athletic. A 300 is a little more aggressive, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The 300 meter, the 300 heritage is just a little more subdued for me. It's just
Yeah,
it's sleek. Does this have a sandwich style?
it does. Yeah.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty slick, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty slick. I think it's probably the best the 300 has ever looked. And the thing that's cool is like it feels vintage still, but it somehow feels modern at the same time.
Well, it's very
And I
sharp, but it also has like the lollipop hand, and
yeah,
it's got a lot
it's
going on.
just it's cool, man. It's cool. And this one we see the upgrade of the bezel being in ceramic now
Yep,
instead of
yep.
aluminum. So there's some subtle differences between this variation and the current version. I was gonna say previous version. I'm like, no, the current version, because it's technically still out there as well. But everything outside of that is basically the same watch. It's just really an aesthetic change to highlight the summer blue aspect of the watch's design.
In honor of the 75th, correct? Seamaster
75th
anniversary.
anniversary of Seamaster. Yeah,
Yep,
that's right.
very cool.
I would say probably my next favorite of the non super divers would be the Planet Ocean. I think most people have kind of seen the 300-meter predominantly featured. Aquaterra certainly predominantly featured. So I'm not really going to spend too much time on those because I think those are kind of pretty much understood for a lot of people. But I think the Planet Ocean was an interesting choice, especially not to do it in 43.5.
Yeah.
According to what I've seen covered online, basically Omega wanted something that was a little bit more of a unisex diver. So they wanted something that could really transition between men and women's rest very easily, but still give you professional capabilities. I think this was a very smart move, especially as we've seen watches in size parameters start to come back down. So this gives you really a good mid-size kind of diver feel. And I'll be honest with you, the 39.5 Planet Ocean has a very similar wearing presence to a 41 or 40 mil sub. I know that that's probably not what people would think, but if you hold them side by side, they're very similar. I know that because I've done it. So if you've ever been on the fence about the PO, go try one on because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how thin it wears, especially in the 39.5 millimeter size.
Yeah, a friend of mine had one, but I believe it was the bigger size.
Yeah. I mean, the 43 size is amazing. Like, that is a timepiece size my mother wears, which is
Nice.
so funny when I see people on the forums like, I could never wear anything larger than 40. I'm like, well, my 63-year-old mother wears the creamsicle Planet Ocean, as they call it, the white dial with the
Nice.
orange bezel. Uh, and it's 43 and a half. That's her everyday watch on steel bracelet. So it's always surprising to me that there's men out there who shy away from that size, and somebody who's 5'6", Hispanic, the size of your pinky finger, can wear that watch every single day and not have an issue with it. So it's all just a matter of perspective, I guess. But I think this is a welcome change. Certainly a cool watch. I like it a lot. But I will say, out of everything that's out there, my personal favorite is the new Plo Prof. This one I think is going to be, especially for vintage collectors, um, Ploprof collectors, diving watch collectors, this is the one to go for, 100%, because Omega did it right. They did it right. So if you're not familiar with the Ploprof, 1970, 1971, Omega was developing the Ploprof in partnership with Comex, the French diving outfit that was really experimenting with French, not French, but saturation diving. But they were a French diving outfit. They really pushed the boundaries of ocean exploration and diving science back in the 60s, specifically for the petroleum and gas industry, basically to figure out ways to refine gas. And so they worked a lot with Cousteau and his team, especially pushing the boundaries of diving so they could find areas to refine and mine and things like that for gas, which is certainly very important, especially in the 1970s when there was an international gas crisis, right? Anyway, long story short, Comex had a very specific list of requirements to create a timepiece, and Omega wanted to create basically a super diving watch. Up until this point in time, very few watches were capable of handling extreme depths, and so they wanted to create a timepiece that was so watertight that could handle one of the most extreme depths that a watch could ever be exposed to. And they came out with the Seamaster 600, aptly named the Ploprof. And the Ploprof is basically a combination of two different words in French that mean plongeur professionnel, which basically means French for professional diver. So that's where the Ploprof acronym comes from. But it was outfitted to Cousteau and his team on several different diving expeditions, and they loved the watch. The biggest problem with the historical application of it was other brands like Rolex and Doxa, instead of basically creating a watch that was completely resistant to helium ever penetrating the case, which is what was necessary for saturation diving, they created basically timepieces with holes in the side of the case, which could allow helium to escape, thus creating basically the prototype for the Sea Dwellers and the Doxa sub 300T. Long story short, they beat the Ploprof out to market, and the Ploprof was too expensive to basically sell to Comex, and so Comex went with a cheaper, more readily available option, and they chose the Submariner, or what would become the Sea Dweller at the time.
Yeah,
I mean that's literally the history. It's literally the story. If you go through Periscope's articles about this stuff, I trust him. That's where a lot of this information and research comes from. It's 100% true. So there's a story. But regardless, that watch is one of the most impressive designed watches in history, because from what I understand, it was not designed by a traditional product development team. It was designed by an engineer. So what you see here is a watch is completely focused based on its form to do the function, right? It's not a form for a purely aesthetical reason. It's a form for a purely technical and function-based reason. So everything about the Ploprof was designed with some type of intention in mind, which is what I find so fascinating, why I've always wanted to have one in my personal collection, and I do now. But what I love about this watch is the original came out in 1971, commercially available. It was a monoblock case, so this watch was a top loader. Literally, the movement and every aspect of the design of the case came from the front out. This is the way to achieve a high water resistance rating, but also make it impossible for helium gas used during the saturation diving to penetrate inside the watch case. Now, I've heard a lot of different mixed theories about this, but the whole reason why Omega spent so much extra effort to create a watch that was completely sealed against helium was the idea that helium, when it entered into the watch case, it actually could slow the rotation of the balance wheel by a small amount, causing a variance of inaccuracy during the timekeeping. Now, it would probably be pretty imperceptible to the wearer, but it was something that Omega saw as a potential problem for performance and accuracy in the watch. And so they wanted to design a case that would never allow helium to penetrate into the watch case in the first place. And so that's why it took more time. It took more development. It took more cost, because it was much more costly to develop than something like just drilling a hole in the case and putting a one-way valve, which is exactly what Doxa and Rolex did. Not really that impressive, to be honest with you. Regardless, the original was a monoblock case, and Omega decided to redo that with this new version. So it is a top loader. Um, and it is a new timepiece in Omega steel, which is what we saw previously used in the Ultra Deep. So now we're seeing it adopted into the Ploprof. It's capable of 1,200 meters, which is the normal water resistance rating, but it has the original design specs of the original version from 1971. So it's 55 millimeters in diameter, which the original was 54. It has a lug to lug of 45 millimeters, which the original did as well. And now the thickness for the new Ploprof is 15.5 millimeters thick, which is thinner than a production Seamaster Planet Ocean
Wow.
at double the water resistance rating. This watch is a home run. And it's not it's one of the most expensive watches of the 75th anniversary lineup. Only comes on rubber strap, very vintage, but very freaking cool. And if you have the money and you're willing to wait a little bit, that would be the watch to get because it is amazing. So there's my spiel. I'm done. But Ploprof, run out and get one. That's the one to get for sure.
Yeah. Well, from a watch that you love that has been sort of faithfully reconstructed to one that I love that has been sort of faithfully reconstructed as of recent. So Seiko released a almost 1-to-1 of the original 62 Mas, which is weird because they released the SLA 017, which was sort of a modern 62 Mas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that was years ago. And this one comes out, it's about the same price that one was, but it's in a smaller case. So you're getting about a 38 millimeter case, and it's thinner, and that's kind of it. But it's just it's more true to the traditional size of the original. And again, this is
Yeah.
like 3,700 euro. A lot of people are complaining about the price as it relates to the watch. They don't want to spend that much on a Seiko, yada yada yada. Um, Again, if it doesn't speak to you, you're not going to buy it. So really, what's the difference anyway? But I personally
Agreed.
love it. I wish I could own it. I just don't want to. I don't want to shell out that kind of cash, but I wish I could own this. They do have also the other semi 62 Mosses, which are in, I believe, 41.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the SPVs that are out there. They also just released one of those in collab with Shohei Ohtani for all you baseball haters out there.
Yep.
Uh,
I saw that. I
yeah,
saw
it's pretty
that.
slick. It's got kind of Angels colors, sort of that silver and red. As sort of paying homage to his team, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. At least that's what they were called when they first changed over from the California Angels. But yeah, it's in collab with Shohei Ohtani, who's probably the biggest name in baseball right now because he's just crazy. And he's for those of you who don't know, he pitches extremely well and he hits like a monster. That has not happened since Babe Ruth. So it's sort of a historic moment in the game. And I know none of you can appreciate that, but considering none of you could pitch or hit at a pro level by any standards, or probably even a high school level, this is monumental. And I don't think people appreciate that. For me, it's still the hardest sport. I know people are like, well, ice hockey, you have to learn to skate. Yes, but round ball, round bat, it is coming at you 100. Now guys are throwing 104, 105. Like, step in the box. All right, get some. Let's see what happens. So it's quite impressive what he's doing, and I think it's cool that it was definitely a good move. Seiko being a Japanese company, him being a Japanese player. I mean, there's a lot more Japanese players now. I think maybe now than ever before, but certainly at the top tier of the league. I mean, I know Kodai Senga just threw a gem for the Mets tonight, but it's just amazing what the players are coming over and doing now. I mean, you had your Ichiros and people like that before, plenty of good Japanese ball players, but they are really giving the rest of us a run for their money, which is it's really fun to watch. And it really speaks to kind of how broad the game has gotten. I mean, I know a lot of people, I like to drill down on this and kind of poke fun at it. They say that baseball is not really an international sport, which I completely disagree with, considering that, again, I'm talking about players from Asia. It's also played all over South and Central America, and now it's making its way into Europe. We have a World Baseball Classic, et cetera, et cetera. Not important, but
Yeah.
I think it's a fun collab. But anyway, back to the 62 Mas. It costs a lot. It looks really neat. I wish I could own it. I don't want to pay that much for it, but um, you know, That's kind
I
of the
mean,
gist of it.
it's like we said, man. To me, this is just basically Seiko jumping in a little bit on the Rolex train and just being like, hey, here we had it in this one size. We
Right.
discontinue it.
Explorer in 39.
Yep,
Oh,
exactly.
no more of
That's
that.
exactly what it is.
Explorer in back to 36.
And now it's in
Explorer in
40, baby.
40. How do you
Yeah,
like me now? Right. That's a little bit of what it is playing the game.
exactly. And that's what I think is a little bit of what's happening here. And certainly Seiko, maybe not directly, but indirectly jumping in on that bandwagon. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
People
Anyways,
are gonna buy it.
yeah, I love it. I really, honestly, what I really want is an original one, and I almost bought one that I saw online, and it was marked down quite a bunch because it needed a little work. It had, crystal was a little beat up, and it was actually missing a bezel, which I found out isn't that expensive. But I was like, this could be a fun project. But I came to my senses, and I'm like, all right, it reminds me of watches remind me of cars a lot of times, right? Projects
Yeah.
are fun, but then eventually they're just money pits. And I me not being a watchmaker nor any kind of repair expert, I was like, I guess I'll just stay away from this. But I thought it would have been fun. I mean, the loom was all intact. It had that kind of green hint to it that I really like about the old ones. Dial was really
Hmm.
clean still, so I was really tempted, but I persisted. I persisted
I like that.
to say the least. But it's one of my favorite models.
Health
I've never
strong.
I've never owned anything really like it, and it's something that I would like to strive for one day. But again, I don't want to pay that much. I don't want to pay that much for any watch nowadays. I just again I'm buying, as people would say, shitters, or as my some of my friends call them, shittours, which are like fancy shitters.
I like that actually. That's kind of
Shittour,
funny.
yeah,
Tours.
it's quite fun. But yeah, I don't know. I've kind of fallen out of love with expensive watches, contrary to articles that have been posted recently. But anyways, I think probably last one up. Speaking of inexpensive watches, we have another Omega Swatch Moonshine Gold
Oh God.
uh
Why did we have
moon
to end
swatch.
on
It's the
this, man?
strawberry moon, and it has little strawberries on it. I don't know what to make of this anymore, man.
Just kill me. Just kill me. I'm out of
The
excuses.
direction is just weird. Like it's I guess I think the idea of using the different moons wasn't a bad idea. I think the execution is kind of weird. Like if
Yeah.
they just made different cases in, like, okay, this is the strawberry colorway and it's a little, maybe it's like a softer red, a pinkish red, and you had, I don't know, some kind of a green accent. I don't know, but just the secondhand thing is weird.
I know, man. You're preaching to the choir. I know so many people have talked about it. So many people have brought it up. I 100% agree with you. And I really don't know what to make of it, unfortunately. It's just the reality. I'm out of excuses. This one was probably by far the most ridiculous. The last one was kind of like a little interesting because it had, like the Magnum PI kind of shirt motif on it and like etched into the second hand. Okay, it's a little less subtle. This literally has like emoji strawberries. Like not even like a cool strawberry, like cartoon strawberries. I mean, I guess maybe
Daryl
because it's
Strawberry.
maybe because it's just like I guess, a fun brand, if you will. But man, I'm out of excuses. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of eager to just get these over with and see what else they got in the
Yeah.
pipeline. Because again, I like the platform. It's just I just don't know what to do with these. So
Can we just take some of the new like gosh, what were they the Swatch Neon collection that just dropped? Can we just do like a translucent highlighter yellow like
see,
moon
that would have been
swatch
cool,
case?
like a translucent reddish case for strawberry. Okay, I'm with it. Like that's kind of neat. You know?
I mean, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, just Google right now the new Swatch Neon collection. It's currently in the stores right now. It's on the website. And there's one called Swatch Neon to the Max. And it's a big bold chronograph with a translucent like It almost looks like uh, what is it? Radiator fluid or no, antifreeze.
Like the
It
highlighter
almost is
color.
like, yeah, it's literally like antifreeze color,
Yeah.
you know? And it is awesome. Can I just get a moon swatch in that, please? Because I think that that would rock. I think it would be so cool.
Yeah, you keep the black bezel and it'll be perfect contrast. You could do something cute with
Exactly.
neon on the handset. If you want to make a neon chrono second hand, go for it. Right? Match the case. Why
I
not?
mean, something, man. I mean, geez,
Yeah.
give me something.
Yeah, this ain't it. That's it.
This ain't it, man.
That's all we have to say about that. This ain't it.
And maybe that's where we just need to stick a pen in it.
And
Who
then
knows what the next moon is going to be?
yeah, I saw a list of them. Some of them are a little more intriguing than others, but
So give me a tiger moon or something. I'm just making stuff up, but
I'm waiting
who
for
knows at this point?
eggplant moon. I'll buy that.
The eggplant moon.
That would be
Yeah, there we
an
go.
epic troll moon
The
swatch
eggplant
eggplant moon.
moon. Hell yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And then of course, I mean, can't really mention new stuff without the entirety of Onlywatch. Right? We have a whole bunch of sort of one of ones that have been released by various houses, I guess you'd call them, or
Yes.
what's the fancy word for that? My songs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maisons.
I don't know how you
Yeah.
pronounce that, but that's what the highbrow folk use. But some of them are a little more intriguing than others. Some of them are just kind of old hat. Like you got another Hublot with the little flower that's sort of iridescent and rotates, and some of them are a little cooler
Looks like a
than.
floral dead mouse head.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I like the FP Journe. It's kind of a dark inky dial, dark colored watch,
Yeah,
very vibrant second hand on it. Kind of
that
neat.
one's cool.
I like the Tudor. It's sort of an homage to the big block in all gold. That's a watch people
Yes,
have been
and and
asking for a long
and
time.
and usually what we see is whenever Tudor does something at Only Watch, in some form or fashion, it gets worked into the collection.
Right. So I think a lot of people have something to be excited about there.
And honestly, I could echo that because this is a much better looking chronograph than their current Daytonas out
I
there.
agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, Zenith did the hopped on the color train bandwagon and released a set of four El Primeros, yellow, red, green, blue.
Yeah,
They look
unimpressive.
nice, but a little late to the party, but whatever.
Thanks for showing up.
MB&F and Moser teamed up for a Panda DJ watch. Don't really know where to place that.
Hey, in the garbage bin.
Louis Vuitton has an Albert Einstein watch, which is
Also for the garbage bin.
I don't know what to do with that. Urwerk made something that looks like the infant rectal thermometer.
But it's the size of a person.
I guess. I mean, well, I'm just looking at I'm looking at a sort of a depiction of all of the watches that have been released, like side by side. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
guess this is more of a time telling instrument than a
Yes.
watch,
It's not
but
really a watch. It's more so like,
a
oh,
time
look
telling
at me. I
lightsaber.
have so much money and it's in my office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just
there's a
don't see what it is. But it does look like a child's rectal thermometer.
yeah, there's a complicated royal oak and some fancy material that I don't really care about.
I
There's
didn't see that one.
yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of everything we've seen already. Just this is something else. Like I don't think it's anything that new. It might be some fancy material, proprietary, whatever. But
Did you see the Blanc Pawn?
I don't know if I did.
It's literally so unimpressive. It's a 42.3 millimeter, 50 fathoms diver for Only Watch, and it says it on the rotor. And it's just like a blue sunburst style with like a blue sapphire crystal bezel. And it's just like that's it on NATO strap.
I like that. A nice low effort submission.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, seriously, this is why you're not selling product. Like, this is why. Because you're selling stuff like that. It's just like the most uninspired piece ever.
Yeah. I
Whatever.
mean, You had some other interesting things. Bulgari did a tourbillon with sort of a almost like a marbled green case with
Yeah,
gold
man. I mean
accents.
like that's cool, but it looks like the '80s bathroom like threw up. But at least I can appreciate the fact that they did something unique.
Yeah, it's something different.
It doesn't look like something that's been done before. It's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like a hidden temple vibe to it or something.
Well, I mean, and it is, it's actually marble, right?
Oh, is it? It just looks like marble to me.
No, no,
I figured it was some kind of
it's straight
composite,
up marble.
like a green carbon or something. I
No, no,
figured.
no, it's marble for
Oh,
sure.
very interesting. I just happened to nail that on the head.
Yeah.
Chopard has a pretty cool pistachio dial with some texturing, yeah, kind of classic
Yeah,
looking to it.
I mean, but this is a different show part. This isn't like your Miglia, right? Like this
You're
is
right.
like your Luke, hierology type show parts that are really, really well done. And this is certainly no different than that. It's 36.5 millimeters, micro rotor, in-house movement. Like this is a very, very good looking piece.
Yeah, I think Richard Mille did a necklace, like a pendant.
Yeah, they did. Well, I mean, they're jumping on that Rihanna
That
train, right?
Rihanna, jeez. I mean, that's talk about like cultural spiral. Like this is where we are.
Well, I mean, it's funny. It's as much as I'm not really a big person on what's that guy from the UK or Glass Glasgow or Scotland, the heavier set guy on YouTube. You know what I'm talking about? He
What
always
does he
reviews
do?
like the crazy people's watches and stuff.
Hmm.
He's like a watch seller. I can't remember his name. He came out of nowhere on YouTube like the last 2 3 years. Now he's like a big deal.
Got me, bro. I really don't watch YouTube unless it's like a
It
friend.
doesn't matter, but basically he was complaining about the Rihanna thing. He's like, this is not a trend. He's like, anybody who's trying to make this a trend needs to like take themselves out back. Like it was kind of just some like one of those things. If you saw his face, Nico Leonard, that's who it
Ah,
is.
that guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, love him or hate him, he just came out of nowhere. But he's, not somebody I frequent, but it popped up on one of my YouTube stories, and it was like it was about the Rihanna watch, and like he's like, this is garbage.
Well, not for
This is
nothing.
absolutely ridiculous
Everybody's
garbage.
complaining about, oh, well, maybe don't make it so obvious you're wearing a watch that might be expensive. Well, this is the exact opposite of that. And you know what? You might get your throat slashed instead of getting,
Yeah, I
a
guess
watch
so.
a watch lifted off your wrist. I mean, how do you lift it off somebody's neck?
That is a very good point, sir.
I'm just saying.
Very,
I'm
very,
just
very
saying.
good point.
That's the New Yorker in me, man. You always think about like the pitfalls of things. How can
Well, I
this
mean,
go
because yeah,
wrong?
people are used to doing pitfalls and and getting into serious trouble in the city.
I mean, it's much better now than when I was a kid, but that was sort of the going rate when you were well, don't bring too much cash with you, back in the day. So
Yeah, no joke.
yeah, yeah.
No joke.
But some nice things. And obviously it's for charity, so it's all good. We like
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
That
These
everybody's
watches will sell, and if they don't, then they'll be in a museum somewhere. But as you guys know, these are all for charity. So if you have the means, go out and buy a birthday cake Mickey Mouse Gerald Gentle watch.
oh yeah, I saw that. Need.
Yes, need. Timex comes out with a cheap version 6 months from now.
Yeah. Aside from that, we probably missed something here or there. There's so much crap that dropped this week, but I think you got the gist of it, folks out there. I'm sure you've seen it all, or if you haven't, go check it out. Lots to
And
like.
and if there's anything that we miss that you particularly like, drop us in the DMs.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the majority of the stuff is pretty positive, which is a nice
Mm-hmm.
sign because I felt like we were in a bit of a rut there. So this is a nice, refreshing turn of events here, where we're getting some stuff that's exciting and intriguing and thought provoking in some respects. And I think you have a lot to look forward to. Like you said, maybe they don't give us a big block, maybe they give us a small block. Maybe they.
Instead of 454, maybe they'll give us a 350.
Well, I'm saying, people are very finicky about sizes. So maybe they don't give
Yeah.
you, the jumbo size that everybody kind of covets nowadays was that like by jumbo, 41 millimeter, 42 millimeter, but maybe they give you a smaller chrono. Maybe I don't know the dimensions on the FXD chrono, but that might be something that's, I could see that as a future line going forward. I mean, if they're going to make it for an Alinghi, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think they're getting some good momentum going for the next run, maybe leading up to the next Watches and Wonders or whatever their next big
Well, I
drop
mean,
might be.
and I'll say this, and maybe I'll call it right now. We're starting to see Tudor systematically, little by little. I think they're starting to distance themselves from the Black Bay,
Which they should, which everybody's been calling
which
for.
we've been saying.
Right.
We've said that a while ago, and I'm going to say it again. This Tudor Prince, which is terminology that they have not used for a very long
Yeah,
time.
quite.
Tudor Prince chronograph, only watch edition, so it's 1 of 1 in solid 18 karat gold. It's reminiscent of the big block, which a lot of people immediately took notice to, I myself included. Um, but this is a very distinct departure from the Black Bay. The focus on FXDs, those are part of Pelagos. That's not Black Bay,
Right.
right? Like this is a move away from that. And I think that is exactly where Tudor needs to be. They need to find a way for themselves to outshine their own shadow by doing something different again.
Yeah, which is sort of something we've always kind of, floated out there, but it's good to see them doing that. Maybe you don't have to name everything Black Bay, even if you want to. But I think it's an encouraging sign going forward, kind of contrary to what's been out there. So that's good. I mean, I think it's overall, there's been a nice variety. I mean, if you look up and down, right, we have Omegos, we have Tudors, we have Oris, we have Seikos, we have collabs. So it looks like there's some fun things on the horizon. Summer is always a fun time for watches because you can you're wearing short sleeves, right? It's a great time to be wearing your pieces and actually using them to tell time as opposed to being bundled under a jacket or something like that. So
100% agree.
yeah. But all that aside, I think it's certainly time to put a cap on this one. I think this one is quite long, TBH. So enjoy
I
enjoy
agree.
all the content, the ad free content, I might add.
And,
But
and and sorry for the delay of a couple days, but here we
yeah,
are.
yeah. But holidays again. I don't think we even could have got it in given the amount of sound effects I had permeating my
Yeah,
house
totally
over the
agree.
past few days. Just I feel like people just would have been like, I'm not listening to this. The sound quality is terrible. But
Yeah,
but yeah,
we did
but
get we did get that comment before too, so that's fine.
yeah. I almost just dropped profanity, but I'm going to leave it alone. Anyways, we'll catch you next week. 89 coming up next week, almost the big 9-0,
Nice.
and then from there it's the countdown.
Oh, don't get me started, baby.
Countdown to triple digits. Very, very exciting. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm sorry you didn't get your Monday drop, but here it is, and enjoy. And you know what? You'll get two episodes in a shorter span. So drink it in, baby.
Take care, guys.
All right, till next time. Later.
Be well.